Everyone who has played Bannerlord knows about the power of archers, but Shokuho adds early firearms. These unique units require a new understanding of the combat system, and in this episode, we'll get you up to speed with the strengths and weaknesses of these modern inventions and show you how tactics can be used to devastate your enemy on the battlefield and leave your foe rotting in the mud. Alright friends, welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is busy producing content and we are dedicated to Bannerlord as we continue to dive into this amazing overhaul mod, Shokuho. This feudal era Japanese mod is very dynamic, and as the trailer at the beginning of this episode discusses, firearms are a significant portion of this game. In this episode, we're going to be focused mostly on tactics. We will be covering firearms in greater detail, including reload time, dangers, weaknesses, and things like that. For this episode, though, we're going to look at tactics, and we're going to see how gameplay is impacted by these guns here. Now, I'm showing you the units involved here just so you understand that we're up against a very difficult opponent, and we're outnumbered almost 2-to-1, right? They have these tier 6 gunners, 260 gun skill, and these guys really are the most lethal units in the game. The ability to kill you at literally a couple hundred yards really has no parallel in either vanilla Bannerlord or the regular game of Shokuho. I knew I was going to mispronounce it at least once. I'm good for once every episode. Now, this very first demonstration here, let's just see how our army here, outnumbered 2-to-1, does against this foe of 1,000 enemies using the battle size mod with the sergeants in charge. Now, they're not even shooting yet, and basically this is the absolute worst tactics I've ever seen. They're running their gunners up like they're having a picnic in the center of the farm here. Now they're kiting. I don't know what they're doing here. They're getting killed. Maybe this isn't the best example. I think we will do a standard tactic episode after this. I guess the gist of this 30-second debacle is please don't put the sergeants in charge. At least the AI enemy here is spreading out its archers behind the infantry and cavalry lines and smoking our units into next week. I mean, that was actually, never mind. That was a complete disgrace. I mean, 85% of the enemy troops are left and they roar and cheer and stuff like that. Let's not put the sergeant in charge, I guess, is the summary of that first 60 seconds. All right, in this next example, we're going to show you what I would consider most players' standard approach to Bannerlord. They have 4 divisions: infantry, archers, or in this case, archers and guns, cavalry, and then horse archers. Now, in this instance, also the horse archers are gunners, and we will talk more about that in this episode. Every kingdom across Shokuho has different unit types. Some have a mix of horse archers and gunners. Some have only guys with pistols. There's a huge variety to it, and of course we're going to dive into it over the upcoming week or two and hopefully give you guys a lot of content that helps you in your own campaign. There's a lot to explore here. We're only getting ankle deep at this stage. Speaking of ankle deep, these guys are ankle deep in the water, and this is a very standard approach, right? Spread formation with gunners, infantry out in front. There's no friendly fire for your own infantry, so they're not at risk. We've got cavalry and horse archers on the side here, and so far so good, right? In fact, amazing kill ratio. We're approaching 20-to-1 kill ratio. That is because the infantry is charging headlong towards our archers, towards our gunners. So we'll counterattack with the infantry here, engage with the horse archers, which is F1, F4. That way they sort of kite. But this is not good, right? The enemy infantry has now reached our gunners. Chaos has enveloped our archery/gunnery line. Meanwhile, the enemy gunners are just absolutely having a field day. Similar to that first example, the AI at least is using its archers and gunners here better than our ally used them in that first battle. And the death spam doesn't look good. Now, we started better, so these are going to be sort of sequentially improving tactics each battle. I guess that was to show you that standard tactics will not work here. We're going to have to get creative in order to win this battle, right? We're outnumbered, we're outgunned, and we're going to have to do some dynamic shit here to succeed. All right, so guns in Shokuho are famed for their distance. They can fire, right? And they can literally kill you at 200 yards. So we're going to use this long distance here. Now, my wife is a kayak guide. She would call this fetch, and fetch stands for the distance between whatever it is you're talking about, the shoreline, or in this case, the enemy, and the amount of water in open space. We have a huge amount of open space here, and even better, it's marsh. So the enemy's going to move a little slower. What that means is that we can put our units here at the very edge of the farm, right at the edge of where it starts to turn to watery marsh there on dry land, and the enemy will have to approach through that very slow-moving marsh, and that'll allow us to rack up kills before they get to us. On top of that, that little center pathway there prevents a little bit of the enemy archers and gunners from shooting us. Now we're going to have basically a widespread formation here. You notice we have 8 divisions, but it's not as complicated as it sounds. We have 2 infantry divisions, 2 cavalry divisions, 2 gunning divisions, and 2 horse gunning divisions. Now we're going to set these units up intentionally and intelligently. We're going to pair cavalry and infantry, and they're largely distractionary here, right? We have a pitiful amount of cavalry and infantry. 50 infantry ain't going to do much against guns. We can use them, though, to absorb cavalry charges and hopefully to distract infantry from getting to our gunners. Now this, I think, is the optimal formation for gunners. You basically put them in line formation, right? F1, F1, and then look at the setup they have. The guys in the front will automatically kneel while the guys in the back stand up. That means that obviously they're both shooting and it's highly efficient, right? There's nobody in the way of each other. Over here, we're going to put a similarly long line, and I think long lines are the keys to gunners, right? There's probably a reason that during like the American Civil War, etc., huge long lines became dominant, because that way every single guy has elbow room to reload and nobody is getting shot when their buddy was getting shot at right next to him, right? Or theoretically. Now we're going to put a little bit of a division on the left here as well. I would say horse archers, but it's really horse gunners, and this is another really good way to use horse gunners. Because they're taller, they shoot on horse, you can put them right behind the other gunners, effectively having 3, maybe even 4 lines of guns going off without any interruption. Again, a long, thin line like that, that'll ensure almost none of them are in each other's way. And again, you have kneeling guys, standing guys, and then horses. We'll just drag it out as far as we can. That way none of the horses are in charge of each other. And I think it's worth micromanaging this kind of detail, right? Getting down to the ground level and saying, okay, that looks good, right? The guys with the bazooka are right there behind the guys with the rifles, and then you have these guys on horse right behind them, right? And that looks beautiful. So we're going to push that 2nd and 6th out in the water because I want them distracting the enemy before they get to our lines. Over here on the left, I've got the 1st and 3rd, a similar thing here, right? We're going to try to get them up to that marshy area and sort of distract the enemy before they barrel over and hammer us. What I'd really like to do is stop all those gunners from getting over that ridge there, right? Over that little pathway, but I don't think we're going to be able to with our small amount of forces here. I'm bringing up 30 terrified cavalrymen and 32 infantrymen. They're not going to be able to do shit. But we'll try. Over here we have this gunner division just kind of on our right or on our left flank, and they should do a decent job of providing damage. Now, just as a background, again, the first episode the sergeant got mangled. 85% of the enemy survived this same scenario. The second example, we got it down to there's about 35 or 40% enemy troops. Here we might be able to win, right? It's going to be close. We'll see how this works out. Now, your guns reload slow, but if the enemy's a long ways away and has to trudge their way through this marsh, just plodding, getting shot the whole time, all of those guns going off, man, it's causing damage. And look at that death spam, right? That is tasty. I would eat at that restaurant. That's the kind of death spam I want on my menu. We'll do a little zoom in here because I think it'll be interesting to see in slow-mo. Okay, so the gunners have come over the ridge, but look at these infantrymen pouring over the ridge, and it's like something out of a American Civil War or any of the advanced gun areas where these poor infantrymen have no chance. Now, I do see their archers and gunners coming up, and that's bad, because once these guys stand still and start shooting, they're going to cause major damage. Now, can't see it very well, but over here, The enemy does have horse archers sort of filleting our flank. That's unavoidable, right? With our defensive setup here, you just got to deal with that. Although, in future episodes, I will give you guys tools necessary to destroy horse archers in this situation. Now over here, this cavalry division and infantry is diligently waiting, but this is what I'm afraid of, right? The enemy with all of their archers is now starting to open fire. We're being flanked by cavalry. Of course, in this scenario, again, we're badly outnumbered. This is not a battle we're supposed to win. It's not like we're fucking up here as a commander. This is an extraordinarily difficult situation. And now that the enemy gunners are shooting, I think this battle is going to start to turn a little sour. We'll see, though, right? Our infantry, or our gunners, smoked their infantry. In fact, their infantry is fleeing off the field, right? We completely devastated them. Here, I'm just trying to intercept their cavalry. You'd much rather have their cavalry attack your cavalry than your gunners, right? Make those cavalrymen deal with your cavalrymen while your gunners just go crazy here. And a lot of these tactics are similar to Bannerlord. This is definitely different, though. Putting these gunners right behind your other gun lines, and look at how nasty that is, right? Every other guy is either shooting or about to shoot with their hand cannon while someone next to them reloads, right? They don't shoot volleys, so to speak. It's more just sort of random, but all those guys are doing about as much damage as they possibly can. The center here, center left, is pretty fucked. The horse archers trampled their way through those guys, and that looks bad. Indeed, the whole battle is starting to turn bad because the enemy has so many units, they're able to spare all these horse archers and rampage through our gunners. We'll talk about that in future episodes, how to deal with their gunners, right? In fact, we've already had a couple episodes that may or may not be released. I don't know if they're, as of the filming this, I'm still polishing these episodes that may or may not have released, and talks about dealing with enemy gunners. That's going to be an important consideration. Still, this is by far the best result, right? It far exceeds standard tactics here. Even though the enemy is clearly going to be victorious, it looks like we got them down to about 20%. So we got a nice progression here, right? The first battle, the sergeant absolutely wet the bed, just completely collapsed. The second episode, the second fight rather, here in this episode, we did okay. The enemy had like 40% left, which, outnumbered 2-1 is no disgrace. And here, with some solid ranged tactics, using this marsh, using the long fetch, FETCH for those curious, we've almost won, right? It's actually close enough that I'm tempted to play it out, but I am aware that most of you guys don't want to sit here and stare at this scoreboard. We'll just call this a narrow loss, and we'll see if we can't avenge this in the next battle. 100 against 200. That's pretty much for sure a loss. All right, well, the benefit of being a stubborn old guy is that you just don't give up, right? I'm going to go back to the drawing board here. This is attempt number 6. We're probably going to toss out a couple of those that didn't work as well. But I think if we can get a nice ridge protection here on one of these maps, we can actually pull this victory out. And it's too open on the left, but the right, this is going to work. All right, so we've got a chance to win this shit. I'm kind of excited. I'm a puzzle solver, and I sense a chance at victory here. This big open spot on the right is where we're going to make our stand, and we're going to use that pathway to protect us from those horse archers. I mentioned that we've done that in a few episodes, talked about how to deal with them. You guys are getting a little bit of a 2-for-1 in this episode. So same units as I've done with all of these, with one exception. We're going to have just one big infantry square, and it's basically going to be hiding until the enemy infantry comes up, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. On the left, I'm just going to have distractionary forces so that some of their units come towards the left. That's a deke, though that's a fake. It's a feint. We're going to pull them back here towards the right. Now, long line here, and I'm not sure shield wall works, right? I think line formation is better. In shield wall, they might either get hit too readily by volleys, enemy volleys, or they might get in each other's way. So let's do line formation. More testing is required. 3 different gunning divisions here, right? So 4th, 5th, and 6th, and it's a beautiful long line. We're going to run a little bit of a layered assault here. So the 4th division out front, those guys, of course, are going to do damage early and then get smoked. But behind them, 2 even bigger long lines. And we will put, of course, horses behind them to amplify those guns, right? We basically have just an incredible gauntlet for the enemy to go through here. And hopefully, if I can distract them a little bit with that left side, that'll be enough for us to achieve victory. Your positioning here is critical. That's why I'm spending like a minute or 2 to get this set up. You get these guys off a little bit. In other words, like guys can't see or whatever, and you don't notice that till the death spam looks bad. The battle's already over. if you're in a critical battle, scan your troops like this. There's a reason they would do troop inspections before war, right? Napoleon would ride up and down the lines to make sure that dipshits weren't in the way of the cannons or whatever, right? All right, so this cav division is actually going to be an intercept unit. I'm going to tuck it below this ridge, and the idea is that the horse archers almost always circle from your left to your right. We're going to block them, right? We're basically going to hide behind this ridge. You see these guys' heads can't really be shot. In fact, we can get them a little bit lower here. So that little pathway protects them from horse archers. But we'll have to see what that looks like on the ground level. Now over here, we have the horse archer division and cavalry, and these guys are bait. I want the enemy to come towards the left side here. That way, a lot of their forces are sort of absent from the main battle on the right side here. You can see it's still 1,000 versus 515. We haven't changed any settings or anything like that. I'm not in the business of tricking you fellas. And that square is basically shivering there. They're out front. They're going to get shot at. And they're in a square, so they're going to suffer a lot of losses, but we're not worried about it, right? And we can break them into square or into spread formation if they start getting shot. They're really highly ornamental for a battle like this, right? So our gunners just shot. I'm going to immediately pull them back, right? Your guys on foot, if they shoot and you move them back, some of them will stand there. Even if you order them to fall back, that is because they're going through the reloading process. They got to use their quadriceps strength or whatever the fuck to bend down and load their weapon. Your horse gunners, though, can instantly move and reload, right? So take advantage of that. We're moving them back here. Now, the enemy horse archers are coming up. I'm going to try something. This works in vanilla Bannerlord. Let's charge them with our cavalry. And if we can push them away, that's a huge victory for us, right? Because that's going to buy us 20, 30 seconds. Not only that, but our guys are going to shoot them in the back while they flee and face the wrong direction, right? Half those guys have one of those horos, one of those little cavalry shield things. I'm probably mispronouncing it every time. We'll do our best here, Daijobu. But we're peeling our units out of that left side now because, like I mentioned before, that was all a deek. That was all fake. Now, the infantry square is okay so far. It's still the same 82 guys. And the enemy infantry is magnetized to it, and they're being strafed by our huge lines of smoking guns, right? The guns are going off like crazy. We can bring this cavalry division, the 7th, or excuse me, the 8th, back behind these infantry lines, and they can add their assault now to the enemy. Now that our fake has been somewhat successful and the horse archers are delayed, now the main battle can commence, right? And these hand cannons, they really do look like a badass hand cannon. Imagine wielding that like when someone tries to mug you and you pull out this cannon-like looking thing. The guy would like give you the identification numbers to his 401k. He'd be like, not only am I not going to rob you, I'm going to give you money here. That would definitely be intimidating. It would be like that scene in Crocodile Dundee. That's not a gun. This is a gun, right? And just pull out this giant hand cannon. All right, so it's working. The horse archers are on the other side, and they can't really shoot anybody because of this ridge. In fact, I just killed some of our cavalry by taking the wrong angle there. But once we tuck them down over those sand dunes, they should be okay. Now, all I see is smoke, right, from our guys going crazy here. I can bring up a cav division to help with this side. And they did get some kills there, but I think we're winning this battle. We've got so many guns that are so protected, firing away. We neutralize their horse archers. Now we can have them attacked by cavalry here at the back. The death spam is mostly green with the occasional little red volley when all their units fire into our ranks. That might even be our infantry being mass executed. We're going to stay on this side, right? The horse archers are on the other side. Stay color within the lines, kids, right? We all did that shit when we were kids. You got a coloring book. Stay within your lane, and you don't get mangled. Now, it's still messy, right? We're outnumbered 2-1 here, and the enemy has incredibly elite troops. These are tier 6 horse archers, tier 6 cavalry. This enemy is ferocious, but we're still winning, right? Success is success, and this looks like a chance to win. Now, there's a huge flush of red. I don't know what caused that. It could have been that the infantry got mass shot to death. They are obviously highly exposed, but it's close enough that I think we can win. Not only that, I think it is time to charge their archers, right? They've got all their archers. We do have horse archers, or more accurately, horse gunners. And not only can they shoot their gun, but they can knock archers around, right? They can knock gunners around. There is an advantage still of horse gunners over foot troops in that you're mobile and you can hit them with their horse, right? It still works. So we can bring these guys up here. We can kind of approach them from over the side of that ridge. Anytime you have landscape advantages like that, of course you want to take advantage of them. This battle's close enough that I'm going to play this out to the last. Might even fight a little extra just to try to win here so that we can celebrate and wrap up this episode. It does look like we're going to have this work. Look at our, oh shit, well, except I got killed. I got a gunner here though, so we're just going to continue to lead the cavalry, and now of course what you do is you just stampede them. Right, we take all these guys that are running for their lives, we gun them down in the back. You're dead, man. He's just shot right in the back, and I missed somehow at 5 feet. No one said I was good with my guns yet. We're going to get to that. The enemies, I don't think this is reforming. I think they've just flat out routed. They're being assaulted by infantry, cavalry. Our gunners are moving up, and now they're being trampled by horses, and I'm not surprised that they have routed. I am surprised by the margin of victory. We have about half our troops left, and we just destroyed 1,000 elite troops. So shoot a couple guys here in the face, little wanton violence. I'm pretty inept with my gun still, but that will improve. All right, friends, hopefully that gives you some tools to go out there and just mangle everything in sight in your Shokuho campaign. If it gets too easy, you can come back here for mods that'll make things more difficult. I appreciate you. Of course, you want to subscribe. If you want to see more, hit that like button. And you know how it goes. I will see you, friends, next time.